Hello, I'm Fantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be answering all the various questions for the March question time video. So thank you so much to all the people who asked questions, and without further ado, I'm going to be answering them in chronological order, starting with the very first person, which is Jaden, who has said that they are early once again. You were the first person to comment, and I will say your name a second time, Jaden, just for that. Sarthak asks, how do I feel about us finally getting a new, aka no previous reruns in North America collab for the upcoming I can't pronounce the name, but I always love new stuff. I'm always a strong believer at owning a new card tends to advance your monster box. So having something that is new and therefore difficult to replicate makes it more meaningful. Conversational Caramel says they've been playing this game for a while now, and they usually just use the cookie cutter teams, and was wondering what was my mentality and ways of building and making teams. Well, the first thing I'd like to do is I look at a dungeon and I figure out what are like the mental checklist hurdles I need to overcome. And those oftentimes are like damage absorb, poison resist, blind resist, cloud resist, awoken bind clearing needs, etc., etc. Basically, you have to look at a dungeon and determine why or what things I need to bring to counter it, and you populate your team accordingly. And to a certain extent, those cookie cutter teams you're referring to probably have those things built in anyways, which is why they seem to work efficiently. Thomas Walker says, how did I come up with my catchphrase at the end of the video? To be honest, I can't remember how, but it's been there for such a long time. I think maybe perhaps it's because my dad bestowed some wisdom upon me years and years ago, way before I even started doing this. But he said, like, in show business, because he has clients who work in show business, they say that a key to being successful is have like an introduction and have like a closing catchphrase. And for myself, it is, hello, I'm Fantastic and Fantastic. And today, and that's why I start my videos, so you have that consistency. And then at the end of the videos, I decided happy puzzling sounds great because, well, puzzle and dragons, it's kind of almost a pun or play on words. And maybe I just like the word happy, like I still have this happy birthday balloon from like mid-January. But either way, having like an intro and an ending catchphrase seems to be helpful, and I guess it has stuck around. Jay says, has anyone asked me what my real name is? My real name is Jonathan. It is not necessarily a secret. Long ago, I used to have a Facebook account, don't have one anymore. And I used to be more active, was active on the various pad Facebook groups. Don't have that anymore, but at the same time, you could see my name was Jonathan. Twinkies Russ says, how do I make a high damage team on pad? Side note, Forever Book is good. That's good to know that the Forever War is a good read. High damage, without context, you just pick whoever has the highest multiplier. Amen is a good default answer. To be honest, damage is nice, but surviving mechanics tends to be more important. Francisco Daniel Segreto Ramirez. I hopefully didn't butcher all four parts of it, but they say, please give us an update on my health. We worry about me. I appreciate that. For health-wise, I'll go through all of them individually. For back and neck, I still have pains and problems. I go maybe like 4 to 5 times a week. There's a gym in my building which hasn't closed, and I go at a time in the morning when people people are not there. So I go there, I pedal on a stationary bike. It has a high backrest so I can rest my back at least against it. It still hurts, but it's the only like cardiovascular exercise I can do. So at least I'm staying healthy in those regards. But the problem is, with COVID occurring, all my specialist appointments have been canceled or deferred, and I believe I have another major procedure scheduled for July, August. I don't recall. It's sometime in the future is the idea. But again, if things are not improving, I tend to just cancel it because I don't want to go to a crowded hospital where every other day it seems to have an announcement saying there's been an outbreak at St. Paul's Hospital. For other health issues, I guess is something that some people may be familiar with. I have a lump in my eye, and I've been seeing an ocular oncologist, so an eye cancer specialist, for several years. We don't know what it is. I've had surgery to try and remove it. It was unsuccessful. The lump is still there. I'm being monitored on a regular basis. I actually have to call and book another appointment for some time in the future, but that is still there. It's almost just like a little worry that's coming up every 6 months or so when I do visit for like just continuous observation, but it's not growing, which does definitely lower the chances of it being malignant. And then for my wrists, I'm not wearing the wrist braces today. I'm not really using my wrists at the moment. I'm trying to like just gently stretch them. I'm doing like very gentle movements if possible, but they still hurt. And I've had wrist pains for years, but it hasn't lasted this long for several years now, and it's frustrating because like I want to do things. Could be like typing articles, yay. It also could be miniature painting. I put away my my miniature painting equipment and put them in the closet. It makes me sad, but then again, every time I walk past it, I get a little sad looking at it as well, because like I want to paint something. I haven't finished painting all the things I want to paint, but my goal is to have my wrist better by like May time frame, because that's when my Kickstarter backing of Nemesis Wave 1 comes in, and that's a board game I've wanted for years, and it has miniatures I want to paint. But those are my 3 major health concerns at this point in time, but I do appreciate you asking. Evanor Pinda says, they wish they could ask me something that wasn't stated already, pad related, but what is something that would deter me from playing pad? Like, what could the game developers do to make me stop playing? And then they've been saying they've been playing for 7 years, so similar ballpark to myself, and now they're an addict, so they're wondering what would be my take on it. And they hope this made sense. It does make sense. So what stops people from playing games, I feel, is stagnation. It grows stale. And the nice thing about gacha games, like, you hear pros and cons about gachas, mostly cons, of course, but the main pro is because, like, let's say everyone subscribed for the Pad Pass, so monthly revenue. Like, we're going to use World of Warcraft as an example, because I feel like they're one of the first early pioneers of the subscription service. Obviously, we don't need to pay for Pad, but the idea is if a company has continuous income on a regular basis and it's a digital platform, they can keep releasing new content. And new content prevents stagnation and things getting stale. So in that end, if Pad stopped releasing interesting content, it becomes stale. Like, I think the gap between after Colosseum and whatever arena came afterwards, it was almost a year's time frame, I feel, like Colosseum 1. And that year time period, there was no new meaningful content to play. And that's when I feel like the game truly stagnated. Right now, we're having lots of events, we're having lots of things to play, so I think Pad is actually doing a great job at this point in time. So as of now, I don't see any reason why it stopped. I do get burnt out from time to time, but I just take it easy. Like, I'll let my stamina cap out and I won't worry about it. But then I'll play when I want to, and then it becomes fun and exciting again. So I think it's just a juggling balance. But the idea is, with gacha systems and the company itself making continuous income, they can do continuous updates. The games of the past, you buy them once, done. Nothing changes ever again. You play it for a while, then eventually you move on. But Pad won't necessarily end up like that. TV says, how do I feel about power creep in the game? Do I ever think there will be a card that's too strong? Well, power creep is pretty fast, I'd say, overall, but one thing that I like right now is that World of Carnage 1, or Shura Realm 1, is a well-designed dungeon. It is challenging, but it's not brutally unfair. The mechanics needed for Alt Arena 4 are much higher. There's so many more ridiculous things you have to build against, whereas World of Carnage is more so, do you have effective health? Can you deal large amounts of damage? And then a couple other mechanics. So the fact that it's challenging, lucrative from a rewards point of view, I feel like it keeps some things in check, so to speak, and multiple teams can tackle it. But at the same time, they are starting to release new dungeons, which are just piling on the mechanics. And I don't necessarily enjoy that aspect as much, but I don't think they're ever going to release a card that's too strong. I think Miru was one of their more notable big mistakes, quote unquote, where they were too strong, relatively speaking. But nowadays, they're not pushing out multipliers that are outstandingly higher by comparison. Like, systems and transforming does reign supreme, but they are starting to do workarounds to try and address that. But I don't think power creep is going to go to the point where like it's not going to be like Miru jumps level anymore, I feel, or like Awoken Ra, or whatever Ra was when he was 100 times and everyone else was 25 times. Like, we're not going to have those huge jumps, I feel, necessarily, because they've learned from their mistakes. Because it doesn't feel good if you release a card that instantly invalidates everything else. It just doesn't make sense. Jared John says, for someone who plays Pad frequently, doing daily dungeons a few arena runs a day, do you think it's worth to get the Pad Pass? Well, this comes down to entertainment money, or like disposable income is meant to be quote unquote wasteful. You're not saving for that down payment. You're not saving for your retirement, etc. You're basically paying for happiness. And you need to think, does pad make you happy? Pad Pass is what, $12 a month, I think, Canadian, give or take. And you need to think, for $12 a month, what else do I do from my entertainment that makes me happy? That could be 2 to 3 coffees at Starbucks. I don't go to Starbucks. I don't know the price, but I think they're expensive. But point is, like, maybe you sacrifice a couple of coffees. Maybe that's like a roll and a half of sushi. Like, you just need to think, like, where are you spending your entertainment money? And you think, the amount of joy that that activity brings, will it outweigh the joy the Pad Pass brings? So, again, if you are happy and Pad makes you happy, and you have the means to do so, I'd say the Pad Pass would be worthwhile in that sense. Rob Allen says, what is my favorite collab from JP or Global? To be honest, none of the collabs really hit home, so to speak, because the franchises or IPs that are featured don't necessarily resonate with myself. A lot of them, I've heard about them for the very first time after playing Pad. Like, it just wasn't something that I was exposed to beforehand. For example, I'm rearranging bookshelves, so books are just lying around, but like Jim Butcher and his series is a franchise that I would love to see. I think that's another question higher up, but the idea is none of the collabs that have come have really been significant in my life, so I don't have that kind of attachment from like a nostalgic point of view. Steve 101 says they feel the new meta for dungeons is kind of unfair to those who don't have Sena or can't find alternative pairings. Durand in March Quest 9 boss hits extremely hard. Do you think this seems unfair as well? Well, there has to be some level of progression, so to speak. Like, newer content has to be challenging, and of course the newer leaders tends to be better suited for it. Like, what makes a leader good, quote unquote, is the consistency in which they can clear content. And the fact that like Sena is so durable and robust helps them clear content. The fact that they do damage too is great, but it is a little unfair for sure, but there can possibly be workarounds. But at the same time, we do have kind of like the foresight of seeing JP's content like 2 months in ahead. So the best way to catch up on power creep, which I think is another question later on, is just hoard stones. Like, I rolled hard for Sena. I rolled tons in Player's Choice Godfest. I didn't roll lots prior to that, but I built up a very well-developed monster box after rolling there, and then I utilized the trade fodder to acquire new stuff, and it just kind of snowballed itself. So it is unfair for sure, but at the same time, you have to make intelligent decisions with your magic stones. Neville Diltner says, can I start including my opinions on the event exchange monsters and weapons, etc. for the collab events? I feel like I should try to make that effort. I sometimes neglect it. I just focus on the raric machine, but maybe I could try, perhaps, Neville. Nathan Wilson says, what's an idea I have for an interesting new mechanic that could be added to the game? What do I think a mechanic needs in general to both be and feel fair? Well, I feel like mechanic-wise, Pad, the thing that makes Pad fun is the matching aspect. That in itself is a large chunk of the game, and that's probably the main reason why it's so successful. You don't necessarily get tired of matching orbs. You can always improve, and it's a skill-based game in that sense. So what I like to see for mechanics would be more awakenings that trigger or proc from matching various patterns or doing certain things. The enhanced combo awakening, I think, is a bit too overtuned, but having other shapes being matched could be meaningful and interesting, like that provide a meaningful reward. Like, don't do like the TPA where it's like, here's 1.5 times, but 7 combos 2 times. Like, make it so it has a competitive multiplier number or a competitive effect that can be helpful. I feel like that would be the most interesting way to introduce mechanics, because it's still revolving around the aspect of matching orbs, and that is, I feel at least, the driving motivation for playing a game. Ramsey Vandermeer says, for a Sena team, is a Whale Door a good sub as he has 6 skill boosts? Or would it be better to replace him with a better value sub and risk stalling more turns? So, you have to think, what dungeon are you playing that has... Well, what is the dungeon you're playing through, and what is the floor 1? The thing is, Sena teams can oftentimes tank and stall on floor 1. Like, you have a modest amount of bulk. And it's possible you can find other creative ways to gain effective skill boosts. And like you mentioned, you have Duval, Owiki, and Polon. Well, Duval gives you that delay, and that means for those turns that you have them delayed, you can hoard up the fire water orbs so you can match them and tank damage and stall longer. At the same time, if you're playing something that doesn't need to have like the most lucrative or like powerful cards. If you just want to transform and get going, Whale Door obviously solves that issue. Like that's a lot of skill boost. It's hard to replicate. And the thing is, you have to figure out like what is the content you're playing through. What is the hardest part? Is transforming the reason why you're dying? Because if you're dying because you can't transform in time, then prioritizing skill boost is the way to go. But if you're dying later on in the dungeon due to lack of solutions to various mechanics, then maybe Whale Door may not have been the best choice, and find ways to stall safer on floor 1. Solarin says, for the next mile mark, would I do a house tour? I don't know. It'd be a condo tour. I live in a 2-bedroom condo, so it's not particularly big, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a house tour. You see my beautiful studio, though. Perhaps. Randall says, what do I do for work? You're kind of looking at it. Like mentioned before, I have lots of different health issues that have been a major hindrance for myself, and basically it prevented me from working a normal job. And this here, it doesn't make much money, unfortunately. It's very little, but it's better than nothing, and it's something I can do on my own time. Like, I have difficulty sitting still. Like, right now it hurts my neck sitting here. I went to the gym prior to do my physio exercises and whatnot, and it hurts already, and it's only like 11:35 a.m. It's frustrating. So like my day goes downhill steadily. So it's hard to do I would never be able to have a 9-to-5 job. I just physically couldn't do it. Like, I'll be in so much pain after the first day, I just wouldn't show up anymore. So this is kind of what I do at the moment. Trevor King asks an interesting question of how many holes does a straw have? I feel like the answer is 1 continuous hole. It's just a hole in a more 3-dimensional way. Okay, another way to think of it is this. If you have a donut, how many holes does a donut have? I think it still has 1. If you stack up multiple donuts and kind of fuse them together, it's like a big donut straw. Still 1 hole. I don't know why I think about these things. Someone last month asked, is a hot dog a sandwich? I don't remember who it was, but it made me chuckle. Fun Fact says, what's a good way to level up monsters in Pad? Well, Training Arena is usually going to be the most efficient way to do so. It's 99 stamina, you get 12 million monster experience. Pretty good deal. You can abuse the fact that you have the watch stamina for watch an ad for stamina refill, and you can level up cards pretty fast there. Which element is best for dungeon or farming? That is an incredibly vague question. Like, it's whatever color you have available. But I guess one thing I will mention is that I feel like blue, at least in Shura Realm World of Carnage content, is the most disadvantaged color because the Minoas are green at 50% mark and below. Raul Bastad says, have I thought about writing my own book? If so, what would it be about? They're assuming it would be dystopic sci-fi, since I mentioned that's my favorite genre to read. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. I think about like my flaws and weaknesses, and one thing that I find challenging is, well, maybe this is hard for lots of people, but like coming up with a unique, original idea is difficult, and I feel like I don't have that capacity to do so. Maybe I have an imagination, but I feel like my strengths lie in other ways. So I don't know if I could really write a book necessarily that's at least captivating and interesting enough. I might just be like borrowing ideas from like Dune, Hyperion, or any other sci-fi novels that I've read. So I'm not sure. I don't know, to be honest. Max Kern says, considering all the freebie Godfest exclusives and Super Revo cards we've been getting from the 10 pull machines this month and the 4 or 8 medals, am I interested in putting out a video series on Shura 2 team building? Well, Shura 2 team building, the problem is there are not many leaders that can really tackle the dungeon. Like, everything hits way too hard, and the bulk and durability of these cards just doesn't keep abreast. Like, you say, yes, we have these Super Revo cards, but none of those are really suitable as a leader. And many of the Godfest exclusives here are not necessarily the leaders themselves. Like, when you think about what are the best leaders, they tend to be collabs. So I don't think it's actually going to change too much. There are several teams that could do it. You could probably grind your way out, maybe get lucky with spawns, maybe co-op, etc. But I feel like it's still a relatively difficult dungeon to tackle. But they say perhaps showcase potential teams for Rainbow, Monocolor, etc. Well, I kind of do that with at least World of Carnage 1. I'm posting significantly more clear videos of different teams. And I feel like, as a whole, clearing Ruler of Hell's Hall is not that meaningful by comparison. I think, honestly, like, World of Carnage 1 is a much better dungeon to play, and it's much more accessible by comparison. As a side question, what do I think would be a cool for Pad to introduce, aesthetically or not, that would add more life to the game? As an example, they would love to see dungeons where the mechanics of the dungeons are a side effect of the monster's boss interacting with the board. Say a dragon rider that detaches from its dragon mount on super resolve proc has the dragon trample across the board every few turns, breaking the orbs, applying unable to match effect on. Yeah, like making the game more thematically fitting would be interesting, but I feel like the problem is they can't make these cool thematic abilities without actually having, basic information in the game. Like, what I would love to see more than anything else is just basic information. Show me how much health a monster has. Show me what abilities it's going to do next based on the current health threshold. I don't like the fact that I have to guess what's going to happen, and oftentimes it's hard to know what's going to happen. You misinterpret it and you die. It doesn't feel good because it's not strategy anymore at that point. So in all honesty, just providing basic in-game information would be helpful, and then adding in all that extra zest like you add. Like those ideas of like thematic things happening, I like that, of course. Harito says, hi, 3 times in a row. Yay! Hope they're doing well. What is my 2 favorite pad characters? I'd say Sakuya has the biggest impact on my pad life. And then after that, no other card really stuck around because power creep is set up in such a way that we get new cards that we use on a regular basis. So nothing really sticks around, I feel necessary. Like, Sakuya was, for my main account, fantastic account was Yumasachi Yamasachi, or U and Y. That was the big deal for them way back in the day. So I feel like those, I guess, might be the ones that had the most significant impact on my monster box because they just lasted the longest overall. X Random Donald says, hey man, I followed my advice and gave their alt account to their girlfriend. Now she keeps wasting the stones you saved up on random things like box space, continue dungeon, normal godfist machines, etc. How can I get her caught up on what's worth to spend magic stones on and what's not worth? Well, you should say that never spend magic stones on anything except for box space increase, friend space increase, and rolling when you say you should roll. Other than that, you should not be spending your magic stones, in my opinion. I think that's the first thing you should convey to her. Like, you need to tell her why it's important. Like, tell her that magic stones are the premium currency. They are rare and difficult to acquire. So only spend them on meaningful, lucrative things. So to repeat, box space, friend space increase. Those are worth spending magic stones on. And the last thing is events that are higher value. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say you follow my content. So usually I'll tell you what's good, and then you can relay that information, so to speak, to your girlfriend. But just let her know that don't spend on anything whatsoever except for those 3 things, or ask you first. But hopefully it's been a fun experience. Are you managing to play co-op with yourselves, perhaps? Leighton Chen says, what North American exclusive collab would I like to see? Well, I mentioned before, the Dresden Files were a pretty significant franchise or IP in my life growing up. I read many of those books all throughout high school, and I honestly believe it helped shape my personality along with writing style and even just narration style. Like the main character, Harry Dresden, he has a unique way of talking, and I feel like a lot of it has rubbed off on me. Perhaps my sense of humor and whatnot. Like, he has many similarities. Like, I feel like if you read those books, you would see some parallels. So I would love to see that franchise. Another franchise right now that I guess I'm more invested in is Dune. I'm currently on the 4th Dune book, and I'm enjoying it. Dune 1 was great. Dune 2, not so good. Very sad. Was a slog to get through. Book 3, great as well. Book 4, I'm only like maybe 70 pages in, but it's going strong. I like it thus far. I even have the Dune Imperium board game. It's a fun board game. So I would like to see Dune. Like, can you imagine seeing Paul Atreides featured? Wow! Cool stuff overall. And I bet he would be a transforming card, because, transforming is the way, and you can thematically tie it in for what happens in the book. But the point of the matter is, I feel like those 2 IPs would be the ones I would like to see the most. Jesus Made David says, what do I think it would take to propel Heart Cross leads into the meta? Well, what makes a leader strong is consistency. And the thing that Heart Cross leaders lacked was consistency, along with follow-up attack. Nowadays, we have auto follow-up attack. So what would make Heart Crosses work is basically having mechanics built into the leader's skill that addresses their issues. Heart Cross tends to suffer from lower combo count, so plus combos would help. They tend to suffer from a lack of consistency. If they don't have 5 heart ups, they tend to die. So they need to have some flat health to compensate for that, or at least another wave to access damage reduction. And then after that, perhaps even having system-y active skills like For instance, Norza's active skill would technically work very well for heart cross teams because you're getting 3 hearts per turn plus your damage orbs, and you're most likely going to have 2 hearts prior to that. So those are the big hurdles I feel it needs to propel heart cross or cross teams in the meta. A way to have access to orbs on a regular basis, so systems, having bulk without necessarily matching a heart cross, having auto follow-up attacks so, like Resolve can actually be killed instead of having to have 10 heart orbs, those sort of things. Haven Davis asks or says, what do I think of the new collab that is coming to North America? Well, I can't tell you what I think about it because I haven't looked that closely. I've made some progress on writing the article, but it actually hasn't been writing. It's me just formatting it and just putting things into an article, and eventually I'll populate it. After this video, I plan to work more on it, but I can't give a good answer at this point in time. You'll find out when I publish the video, though, or article. Pan Maxwell says, how long do I think I'll still be playing Pad? They've been playing for about 2 years, but nowadays they just log in to get daily stones and less actually playing the game. They're kind of burnt out. Well, for myself, I still enjoy Pad, and from what I do, this is meaningful for me because it allows me to connect with people in the outside world. I know there's another question further up asking about how do I stay positive during COVID times, and one of those answers is going to be this content creation for Pad because it allows me to interact with people that I normally couldn't. I'm relatively isolated. I don't leave the house often because it's difficult to take transit. It hurts. It's just, and I have nowhere to go as well. So I don't have much interaction. So this is what helps. So I like Pad for that reason as well. But when you mention burnout, what you need to do is do exactly what you're talking about. Just log in and just get the low-hanging fruit. And you will build up a stockpile of magic stones. And then when a new event comes out that kind of pushes the limits of power creep, for instance, like Sena's event back then, roll hard. And then you'll get all these new toys. You'll catch up on power creep. And then Pad might become exciting again. So I feel like that would be the best course of action. You're doing what I would do. Just play a little bit more casually. Get the low-hanging fruit. And then come back during a major event and roll hard. And all these new toys might reignite that spark. But they ask, following up that, if I do end up quitting the game, do I have any idea what I may play next? To be honest, I don't. And that's a small fear of mine. I guess that's kind of up there as well. Another question, what's my fear? But I don't want Pad to end. I like what's happening right now. Are there any plans for the future of this channel? Well, for now, Pad seems to be the way to go because I've noticed that when I try and switch to other types of content, obviously the viewership and interest goes down. I'm not a big YouTuber to begin with. I'm relatively small. Overall, I don't get many views. So if I switch to something else, I'm going to have even less views. And at the same time, views are obviously nice and important, but it's the community interaction that I like the most. So I'd be excluding a large chunk of my community. I'd have to basically rebrand myself or find a very logical transitional thing to do. And they say, also, keep up the good work. Yay! I like that as well. And always looking forward to my new content, even though they don't play the game as much as they used to. Well, you never know. You might come back. Like I said, when you stockpile enough, you might be able to roll hard and be incredibly happy. Noob tends to post random numbers saying that X comment. I think there are 58 comments in here. And I'm going to guess, based on how much I've scrolled up, you're probably 25th or so. Dwight Maxwell says, what's my favorite card in Pad in terms of art aesthetics? Again, I never really had much attachment to any card in particular. None of them are truly standing out. I think one drawback that Pad suffers from is it took so long to get cards to be animated, and there's no real lore tied to them. Again, it took a long time for story mode and whatever basic lore there is. There's no, in-game conversations about the character. There's no voices. It's hard to make a meaningful connection. And the fact that we change cards constantly all the time, it's hard to build an attachment because the meta is change cards every couple of months. So I'm not sure. I don't necessarily look at the aesthetics as much, I feel, overall. I can't really pick one as a standout as my favorite. Stubby says, how do I find out what conditions are for floor-specific rewards such as arenas? There's one out right now, actually. And Nathan has a great answer. You look at the news tab, and it will tell you what the event has. Or conversely, as they mentioned, follow or join the various large Pad Discord servers. They will post, they might have a news channel. They may have other channels that basically elaborate the things that you don't necessarily see in game. So I would honestly just join one of the major Discord servers. Doesn't have to be mine. It could be like the Pad X one, Pad Global. I forgot the names. I'm bad with names. But there are a lot of big Discord servers out there. Chicken Hop says, do I like it when people sub to me? I love it. You come by once a month on Twitch and you ask the same question. I say yes, and I get a sub. Fantastic times overall. Gabe Gonzalez says, do I think the new combo enhanced skill or the monsters that have multiple of them will be nerfed in the near future? I feel like they will. I think it's too strong of an awakening. I feel like it does too much. It's such high amounts of passive damage that is relatively easy to achieve. And unlike enhanced orbs, you can use orb changers and still get the full effect. Using an orb changer changes an orb from unenhanced to unenhanced. You don't get the bonus damage built in. So I honestly feel like this awakening is really the way, like, propelling monocolor significantly further up. Mr. Manio says, is there an existing pad mechanic I would like expanded? Well, like I said, I would just like to have more matching rewards, so to speak, like matching certain things for certain benefits. I think that's what really I would like to see more. Instead of active skills directly countering a mechanic, give me a way to match orbs to counter a mechanic. Joshua says, out of all the collabs that have been in pad thus far, which one has had the largest positive impact on my box? I feel like I'm going to go through the big notable monster exchanges that I've done. I'd say Yusuke was one of the first major collabs to impact my box. It was the first monster exchange card, and it just was a great leader. I feel like Christmas Grammar has also been a tremendously valuable trade for myself, but I feel like Yusuke from YYH was the most impactful one because it gave the monster exchange thus far. What was the worst collab in pad? Well, I don't roll in most collabs to begin with, so the ones I don't roll don't mean much, but like you said, Voltron was pretty bad. It was not very good or well done at all. Power Rangers was definitely handled much better. And then, this is more of a silly question. If I had a chance to make a truly powerful card in pad, think overpowered beyond belief, what kind of card would I make? Would I aim to make them the best leader or sub? I would actually make it a weapon assist, because weapon assists are going to be valuable much longer than a sub or a leader. And what would make a weapon assist strong is it provides an active skill that provides counters to various mechanics that you need to counter on a hopefully a reasonable cooldown. So maybe providing like Awoken Bind Clearance, unable to match orb matching, color absorb, damage absorb, all the more notable ones that you need to bring into a dungeon, have that, and then provide meaningful awakenings. If you want to make it even more overpowered beyond belief, just add more awakenings, because weapon assists almost never hit the full 8 possible. One is the weapon assist itself, and then 8 possible awakenings. They don't really hit that, so just including more awakenings. Even giving something 2 skill boosts would be pretty crazy. Giving super resist without penalties, giving those sort of things, those would definitely be a way to make a weapon assist crazy strong. And at the same time, if transforming stays popular, if you gave it, say, 2 skill boosts and a meaningful active skill, it's going to be popular and valuable overall. Lawless Prod says, on board games, have I ever heard of Gloomhaven? It's a good game for couples if I want a D&D-esque campaign. Well, fun fact, I actually have a giant... Oh, you know what? I'm going to take it down. It's not glued. Don't knock anything over. I actually ran 2 Gloomhaven campaigns with 2 different groups of people. And this is my map. So yes, I have heard of Gloomhaven. I'm going to put it on the side now. But I actually display it just above my computer. Like, I have like a little shelf above, and on that is the Gloomhaven map. Pretty cool map overall. I like it. It's worth displaying. So yes, I have definitely heard of Gloomhaven. And these campaigns I ran were pre-COVID. And I had 2 great gaming groups with 2 different campaigns. It was a blast. But I will say that it's not the best couple game. I don't think it's as good at 2-player. There are better 2-player games out there. Like Tainted Grail, if you want a story campaign game, much better 2-player by comparison. Mostly because Gloomhaven, the biggest draw of Gloomhaven is the all for yourself mercenary mentality. Like, if I'm just playing with Pancake, it's not as nice when someone takes the treasure chest or coins. But if you're playing for a group of people, it happens more often, and you get that interesting dynamic of, like, you enter a room, boss on the left, treasure chest on the right. 3 people go left, you go to the treasure chest. It creates interesting dynamics. So yes, Gloomhaven is a great board game overall. Fun fact, I'm actually gifting my sister Jaws of the Lion for Christmas. She's not in Vancouver. She's doing her studies in Toronto. But when she comes back, she'll have Jaws of the Lion. And I display my miniatures in front of me. I even painted the characters for her Jaws of the Lion. So she's going to have painted miniatures for her board game. It's not focusing very well. But point of the matter is, I painted them very well, I like to think, prior to my wrist hurting. Shade says, What got me to come up with the username I did for both Pad and this channel? Do I have any particular... Okay, I'll answer them one at a time. So, for my username, I came up with the name Mantastic a long time ago. I actually had a t-shirt that said Mantastic when I was like in my early 20s or very late teens. I don't know the timing. I still have it. I have a lot of old stuff. I hold on things. This Kog'Maw shirt was when I played League of Legends again back that time frame. This is probably close to 10 years old now. 8 years, I'll say. Either way. What made me come of it? Well, that shirt kind of influenced me, and it's like a play on words. And I think people who have watched me for a long time have realized I do enjoy puns. So Mantastic is kind of like saying I'm manly and cool, and I'm fantastic. So I put them together, and that is I. I like to think it's playful in that sense. So that's how I came up with this name, and Pad is just, sticking on Pad at the end. And at the same time, I guess, in theory, if I ever had to rebrand myself, I can say Pad is kind of like my cool location. It's like my pad. Maybe, I don't know. Do I have any particular older Pad monsters I'd want to see get a new evolution or buff? Well, I always mention Sakura, and I'd love to see her be relevant once again. Have I played the Pad Z game? I don't think I have, actually. No. And lastly, are my wrists okay? No, I wear my wrist braces sometimes when I, play stuff. I try to minimize what I do. Again, I said before, I'm not doing my miniature painting anymore. And I'm just reading more books as well, which is not a bad thing. Because, when I'm reading, it's hold open a book, read. Not too bad overall. It doesn't hurt my wrists as much. Henry Marston says, "Hey, Mantastic, love my videos. Have 2 questions for me. If I wanted to clear Shura Realm with Light Manoa, what would be the ideal partner pairing to prepare my team to succeed?" Well, you need to look at your monster box and determine what cards you have at your disposal, because Light Manoa does not need to pair with any particular typing. Well, sorry, Light Manoa does not have any typing restriction, I should say. She can use anything. So you need to think, do I have tons and tons of devils in my box? Maybe if that's the case, I'll pair with Lucia. If I have balance and dragon cards, maybe Valentine's ideal. You get where I'm going with this logic. You need to look and see what are the rainbow-oriented cards you have, what typing, and figure out what pairing has the most overlap of as many cards you have overall. Number 2 is, are there any standout subs I could be used in Ryume teams? It's so rare for people to have pulled enough for the system like they did, and they'd appreciate recommendations because they've really struggled finding subs that fit quite well into the system-based lead pairing. Also, would Light Cotton Equip be the best solution for a follow-up attack? Well, I'd say Light Cotton would be definitely a good solution for follow-up attack for that team. But at the same time, do you have a Yogg? I just recently made a Fair Rule video for Shura Realm, and I don't have dupes, so it's just one from... Oh, sorry, that's Fair Rule. Never mind. That wasn't Ryume. I don't even own Ryume. Never mind. But either way... Oh, shoot. Let me think. Spider Lady's not a bad card to have. Low base cooldown, can inherit something. I still think Yogg probably could work, maybe. Possibly, if you need follow-up attack. But at the same time, maybe just sub Polone. Wait, Yogg doesn't have follow-up attack. But sub Polone. Polone has follow-up attack. Polone is a good blanket choice for using... it's a good blanket choice for entering dungeons. If you don't know what to put, slap in Polone. You solve many problems. But Spider Lady has a 3-turn cooldown, which could help close that system loop. And it does make an L amusingly as well. But at the same time, if you can tank stuff without having... a system makes life easier. It's not mandatory. It just makes it more consistent. And for Light Cotton, if you don't have any other way to get follow-up attack, it definitely could help. And the active skill is at least helpful overall. Jacob Han says, is the new collab worth spending stones on? Again, I haven't wrote it yet, so I'll be able to answer that question better whenever it does get announced. Snacksophone says, do I think the game needs more middle difficulty dungeons with modern mechanics involved? I feel like it would be a beneficial thing, because right now we have basically no early game, and then, woo, all the arenas. I guess they want the arenas to be the thing that you want to play over and over again. But I would like to see more dungeons of maybe 10 or less floors that are worth playing, but obviously have more adjusted rewards. They don't have to be as challenging, but why not make something cost, say, 50 stamina, be only 10 floors or maybe less, and still have reasonable rewards? Not as lucrative as World of Carnage, but something meaningful so people don't have to get stuck in one or the other ends of the spectrum. But I agree, they do tend to make newer dungeons on the edge of power creep because that's what keeps the game interesting. New content is interesting. So they'd have to basically release lots of dungeons, which might be difficult. I don't know. Tiborn says, thanks for my advice in the last video. They asked about how to use Norza without having the blue skill boost. And they've been able to clear arenas 1 through 6 and Alt Arena 1 and 2 so far, as well as the easier Snowboat Challenge. With the 100 stones, they did 3 rolls recently and got the new 7-star Godfist exclusive Mieda. And now they're thinking about using them as a helper. So, as a leader pairing, you get a 7x6 board, which should, in theory, offset the running out of heart or water orbs. You're never going to run out of water orbs, most likely, but heart orbs is definitely a concern. Also, Mieda does not have a 2-turn cooldown. Norza does. So you're going to be having 1 turn without an active skill. So your subs are Thor, Kana, Nene, and Nell. In all honesty, Nell is your Fujin, but Nell doesn't bring skill boost. And if you swap Nell for someone else, you could probably change Kana or Thor to someone better. Like, maybe you're using them for the super resists as well for Kana, but at the same time, changing Nell to someone else might be a better solution. Do you have a Polon? I'm going to go back to Polon as a great default answer. Polon could possibly work, but at the same time, you also need a way to have an active skill every turn. Like, do you have Yuri? Do you have a dupe Norza? Maybe pairing of Blades would be a better idea, to be honest. Like, pairing of Blades would solve your 2-turn active skill problem because you're Norza and Blades. And then they have 2 skill boosts in themselves. And again, change Nell to maybe something else and inherit a Fujin some way. Maybe. But again, if it's working, it works. Is there a way for you to put Mieda on the team without losing anything important? I honestly feel like she's not bringing enough to the team overall because, again, it's not an active skill that closes the loop. It doesn't make hearts, so it doesn't guarantee it. So it's a little risky overall, I feel. So I feel like it's nice, but I feel like it's hard to utilize her well. Maybe try pairing Norza with Blades might be your best bet. Pseudo Cray says, we know the true value of a card is dependent on their box and dungeons they need to clear, but firstly, how do I feel are the most widely valuable farmable equips? There are not too many farmable equips, unfortunately, but I'm going to say Riku is a great one overall. Skill boost, skill bind resist. It solves many problems. I like it. Another one that I've used a bit more often lately, at least for Monolight, is Swords of Revealing Light. It gives me a delay, which is helpful for stalling or just delay, and some Light Orbs Enhance and Light Orbs Skyfall. What are my most valuable equips, farmable or not, that I use? Okay, my most common equips are the Samurai 3 weapons. They're just so good, especially the blue one, which gives me the damage absorption counter on an 8-turn cooldown. Truly amazing weapon. My game changed by rolling that card because I have so much more options for team building. Other big notable cards I use are Fagin Rise Weapon Assist and Amatsu's Loot. I use Amatsu's Loot sometimes to abuse the haste to transform, say Sena for instance, and then haste again to give me the active skill so I always can have my leader skill proccing. Those are the equips I use the most across the wide variety of teams. And then what advice can I give someone trying to build their arsenal of equips? Roll only during good events, to be honest. That's what it comes down to. Stockpile and hoard. Only roll during events that you feel will give you the most value. Like seasonals and collabs, depending on the rolling rates, seasonals are almost always a bad idea to roll. So if you're not rolling there, you're saving your stones. Collabs, they can be hit or miss. So again, rolling in Super Godfest tends to be a relatively safe bet because you will get Godfest exclusives, which may have weapon assists if they're 7-star, and they can also be utilized as trade fodder to get those good cards eventually. Gabe says, who do I think was or is the most useful versatile leader at and around the time of its release? Miru. Miru did it all. Tons of damage reduction. It was Miru. I think Miru was definitely the most power-crept card we ever had in the game. Matthew Kanya says, have I ever thought about doing a tier list for top leaders in North America as well as build options? I feel like the problem with build options is things change all the time, and creating template teams doesn't really work as well nowadays, mostly because we have multiple ways to overcome them. Maybe tier lists can be misleading sometimes because you might say, hey, I have a top tier card, but you have no way to make it work because the game is so dependent on having a team that works. You need subs, you need inherits. So for instance, Mikaj is an incredibly strong leader, but if you don't have Chris or really a good orb generation system, it's going to be very awkward to use. That sort of idea. Sam Chen says, do I have a job right now? Well, I kind of answered that before. This is my job overall. Have I had jobs in the past? Yes, I have had jobs in the past. I used to work full-time prior to getting injured. How did I obtain them? It's just through who you know. Like, if you have connections, you build a network up, you can meet people, and oftentimes you can get hired, not necessarily being the most perfect qualified candidate, but at the same time, if you can prove that you're intelligent and able to adapt and adjust and know the right people, you can get jobs. How did I obtain my way? Did I go to school for it, or was I self-taught? I went to the University of British Columbia back in the day, so I do have a modest amount of education. Only a bachelor's degree, so not very, not exceptionally high, but reasonable. What is my dream career? Maybe this, if I could make it much more profitable. Like, this is enjoyable to do. Like, it doesn't, like, it takes time still, of course, but it doesn't feel as grinding as other jobs might necessarily be. Like, when I stream, I'm usually looking forward to it, and like, this feels pretty great. Like, if I can make this sustainable enough, that would kind of be like a dream career, so to speak. And then, is that the job I'm working right now? If I'm working, well, I'm kind of in a way, but like, I'm just not earning enough. But at the same time, I need to manage my expectations. Like, I know, like, I'm probably gonna get worse health-wise. Like, the odds of me getting better are basically none. So realistically, I'm only gonna get worse, and I need to kind of plan for that. So it's gonna tie in possibly to the next question, but like, I have a relationship. I'm actually engaged, hooray! But it's meaningful to have a partner there, and we've basically decided that I'm most likely going to be more of a house husbandy role. I kind of do that to a certain extent. Like, I do quite a bit around the house. I do most of the cooking. I do a good chunk of the cleaning that I can do, and just like house maintenance. And then when kids eventually do arrive at some point in the future, hopefully, I'll probably be more of like pseudo stay-at-home dad as well. So like, that's just like the reality of what I'm going to have to do. But at the same time, I've kind of made somewhat peace with it. Like, I feel like it's something at least we can obtain. So James Miller says, how do I stay happy during COVID-19? It's been a year since COVID started. There are only so limited things to do at home before I start getting bored. So I'm going to answer those several questions at once. So I have one distinct advantage. I have Pancake. I have my best friend living with me all the time. And that is a tremendous help in itself. So that does definitely alleviate that frustration. Like, during the day, she's at work and I'm here doing whatever I'm doing. And it's like, we have separate time, but when she comes home, it's definitely helpful. But what I think you need to do is figure out the things you enjoy doing, and even possibly starting new hobbies. For myself, the biggest new thing I did during COVID was miniature painting. And it was great because I love board games, and it's a way for me to bring my miniatures to life. Like, I just keep a bunch of miniatures in front of me. Like, look at this guy. So ridiculous. Like, he's just like he looks so juicy and bloody. Like, maybe camera. There we go. That looks great. Like, it's like something that I can bring to life. And I never thought I was artistic. It doesn't have to be miniature painting for yourself, but like, you need to find hobbies that can be done at home. And if you live with other people, finding things that you can do together. Like, I'm a strong advocate for board games. I played board games tons even before COVID. And a big part of my social life was having people come over and we play board games together. So, again, maybe if you're living with people, maybe you can find ways to do activities together. That could possibly help. And another thing that I've found helpful is every day I have certain tasks I need to achieve, like just basic stuff. And then I try and do like one more bigger task, so to speak. And then I feel like a little sense of accomplishment. It's not like a huge thing. Like, for myself today, I'm going to be planning to vacuum the house. Like, I don't vacuum every day, but it's something I need to do. And like, it takes me a bit of time. Like, I get things done at a very slow rate. Like, I can't move too fast, and I have to take breaks constantly. So that's my kind of little bigger task for the day. And I'll get it done, and I'll feel a little bit better. So I think that helps, like, creating those little smaller, but like a little bit bigger tasks help. How many friends do I have that I regularly hang out with? So once or twice a week. We can't really hang out now due to COVID, but I don't have many friends. And I think that's just the sad reality of getting older, because when you're in high school, when you're at post-secondary, you see these people all the time. And to a certain extent, it is possible that it's a friendship built around convenience. Another thing for me was like athletics. Like, I used to play badminton competitively. I was a member of the Vancouver Rackets Club, and I played badminton on a regular basis. I was there many days a week. Actually, I ran a small business in there years ago, actually, ironically. So I was there like every day almost. But the point of the matter is, it builds up a big community. But as soon as you leave a community, those people kind of disappear. Like, once I got injured and stopped going to VRC, all those people that I used to interact with are gone because it was that common activity that linked us. So I think it is definitely challenging to make meaningful friends overall. Like, a lot of them are like friendships of convenience and or just common activities that you're doing. So it is hard, but like, I don't really hang out with anyone. Like I said, I just see Pancake, really, that's it for the most part, and then my mom and maybe my dad occasionally as well. That's all the people I really see due to COVID. But again, with streaming, with my YouTube channel, it's a way for me to like stay more positive at least. And then how often do I go out, and what do I do when I go out? I rarely go out, mostly because like I don't own a car, and I don't think I like, cars are expensive, and it's an expense I don't need. But like, transiting hurts, so I don't go out too often. But when I go out, it's usually as a date with Pancake. We just go do something. Maybe we go out for a meal together, or maybe we go. I live in New Westminster. There's like downtown New West. It's like reasonably close by, of course, and like there's a area outside, like it's on a pier. It's by the water. It's nice. It's pleasant. Like, just small things like that. Nothing too extravagant, to be honest. And do I usually cook or buy out? Well, at home I cook. Like, my big task yesterday was I prepared dinner. So like, when Pancake got home, like, she wasn't hungry, but it was ready to go. And when she got hungry, with about 10-15 minutes heads up, it's ready and on the table and delicious and delightful. Basically, I'm boiling it. Actually, right now I'm boiling a giant pot of chicken stock, and it's simmering away, doing its wonderful thing. And I use that to make stuff. So last night I made a very special soup. Like, I used turmeric, coriander, cinnamon to make kind of like a curry-esque base, and then add a bit of coconut milk, add in like lemongrass, add in like, well, I use like those types of things, and it creates a nice soup. And then I add in like some sliced meat, some pea sprouts for vegetables, and some noodles. Great meal overall. But that's what I usually do. So yeah, like, finding ways to make your home fun. Like, to be fair, like, for COVID, I was at a bit of an advantage when it happened, because I was almost always home to begin with, James. And because I'm already home, I've made my home a really nice place. Like, as far as I can tell, of any other person's home that I've been to, I think I have the coolest home because it has lots of toys. I like my stuff here at home. Erica So Fine says, do I believe in destiny, predetermined stuff, or fate, choices that you make? I'm more about choices that I make. I feel like I have some control over your own destiny. Like, this concept, I feel, is something that's explored in the Dune universe. Like, if you can see the future, are you tied to that path, or can you deviate? Things like that. But I honestly feel like, because I can't see the future, I don't know what the end goal is going to be. I have a certain degree of being able to shape what I do. For instance, like, meeting Pancake, like, I had to make the conscious decision of installing Tinder and swiping right for her. Like, it was my choice overall. Like, we didn't just collide magically on the street. No, we met via Tinder. So Tinder does work. And Erica says, they think that if we don't get what we want, it can be because we deserve better. That's an interesting concept. They also notice that they have a group of friends that change when time goes by. Yeah, this ties in very much to what Jason Miller said as well. Because in their group of friends from 5 years ago is very different from the group of friends you have right now. And I honestly think it's because you possibly transition through life stages. Like, the big life stages I'd say are, well, when you're a bit older, is like you graduate high school. Then you maybe doing like post-secondary education or some other form of learning, or you jump right into a job. And then after you get a job, the next stage in life is oftentimes like meeting someone, settling down. These are like just the generic things that tend to happen, at least in Western culture. And whenever you make that jump to the next stage, you oftentimes lose friends because you're at a different place in life. And especially with the school example, as soon as you graduate, you're not going to see them on a regular basis. And it may be difficult because it's not as easy as it used to be. So unless that friendship has truly developed and blossomed, it's going to be difficult to maintain it. How many good friends do I have right now? I only have a couple, I'd say. Like, I'd say really just three. Just three good friends, I would say. Aside from Pancake. Like, I'm excluding her from that list. But other than her, three others. And that's it, really. And even then, it's sometimes difficult or challenging to talk to them all the time. How do I make new friends that will stay in your life forever? I wish I knew how to do that, to be honest. But I think what builds friendships is, like, initially is convenience and a common activity that you have together. Like, if you see them regularly and you can talk to them, and at least in my head, like, an open, transparent form of communication is important. Being able to talk to them frankly is a great way to build a friendship overall, or at least build that sense of trust. And then, why do some friends just leave me after figuring stuff out about you? What do you mean by figuring stuff out? Like they learn like some weird, deep, dark secret about you or something unusual? I think it's more so they leave at least when like life changes. I could be mistaken. I never had someone leave because they found out something about me. I don't think I have anything truly bad either. And then, do I feel sad if and when some of my friends just leave my life? I did feel sad, and it was tough. Like for me, like I had another big transition, and July 6, 2014 is when I suffered my injury that caused my back and neck issues. And for basically 6 months, I couldn't walk. And basically right after that, essentially almost every single person in my life disappeared. Because again, we lost that convenience, able to see people or even be able to go out and hang out. I just couldn't do it. And almost every single person in my life disappeared. Only a couple of them still kept in contact. A couple visited, like one or two, that's it. It's sad and it's frustrating, and at the same time, it just kind of makes me realize that maybe they weren't really the best of friends, and maybe perhaps it was maybe better that way, because at least in my head, I would much rather have one great friend as opposed to 5 okay friends, at least in my head. So maybe like pick someone that you seem to connect with and just invest more time into that relationship. Like friendships is a two-way street. Like Erica, like just think of yourself. Like who are the people that are closest to your life? When is the last time you talked to them? If it's been a couple of weeks, it's partially on you, partially on them. So like for myself, like those 3 people, I message them every once in a while. Like, and I have other people who I also talk to as well, but like I will check in every once in a while and say like, hey, how's it going? And I'll say like what's happened for me. It helps. So like you have to make the effort on your part as well, at least. I think that possibly could be a way to make friends at that point. Kevin Nguyen says, what ethnicity are myself and my parents? Well, my mom was born in Indonesia, but she is Chinese. And my dad is from Liverpool, England. So I am half Chinese, half English, 100% mantastic. I do have one younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me. And what would be an ideal significant other? Pancake! She's not here, but Pancake is my ideal significant other. And what are some things that you will not tolerate for your significant other? Well, I am a strong believer about open and honest communication. Like, secrets hurt. They don't help. And at the same time, if you feel like you need to keep something secret from your significant other, unless it's like a silly surprise, like those type of things, but like I'm talking about secrets of something significant. If you feel guilt about keeping a secret, there's a reason why. It's probably because something is wrong. And at least for myself, that is something I do not like to tolerate. Like, I advocate open communication. Like, if something is wrong, I'll think about it for a little bit, and if it still is something that is worth mentioning, I will talk about it. Like, I will do it within a day or so. Like, let's say Pancake does something that I didn't appreciate. I will let her know. And over time, we got to the point where we just tell each other things. And I think that's what's made our relationship so strong, because I have had past relationships and we didn't have this open line of communication necessarily. Like, there was like communication, but not to the same degree. Like, and problems would tend to manifest and build up. Whereas now we just basically extinguish them before they really gain momentum. What are my pet peeves? Well, in relationships, as you just heard, I dislike a lack of open communication. Like, I feel like Pancake is my best friend. I should be able to tell her absolutely anything and everything that is on my mind. And doing so alleviates so much stress. And like, I don't carry around this frustration or guilt or whatever it may be. And it works well because like Pancake will tell me things. If she thinks it's something that's maybe making her uncomfortable, she'll tell me about it. Maybe I may not like it necessarily, but at least we talked about it instead of it hiding and being built up over time. Shaskas Zen says, have I traveled outside of Canada before? I have. So when I was super young, apparently I traveled all the time. When I was like maybe 10 or under, I don't even know. Apparently I went to Mexico. I remember nothing. I went to Disneyland. I think I was 10 or under. Like, my family traveled a bit more when I was younger. And then the only other time I traveled was maybe 9 years ago. I don't remember. 2012 maybe. And my mom had like a travel package deal to go to China. And it was like a touristy sightseeing thing. So we went there and then we went to Hong Kong afterwards. And it was great because like it's the most exposure I had. Like, I'm not a traveling individual. Like, I don't travel. I don't seek it. So that was like a definite eye-opener for myself. And it was interesting, but at the same time, I don't seek travel. I guess my current situation does definitely reinforce that notion. Like, I can't walk around, I can't explore places. So, like, I don't have that need or desire. So, less motivation to travel overall. What's my favorite place to visit? Again, I don't really go out that often. I like going to my mom's place. Like, I don't know. Like, to be honest, like, I don't know any place I really like visiting necessarily. What are some places I would want to visit in the future? I feel like wherever Pancake wants to go, I would like to try and be able to do that with her. She has a certain love and fondness for Paris, and it'd be nice to be able to go there one day together. But again, my biggest concern is, well, cost is one, but two is, can I really, truly make the most out of it and enjoy it? Because, like, I can walk a couple of blocks, and that's it. Even now, I've been sitting for just over an hour. This is a great long video. Just over an hour, and my neck is driving me nuts. Like, I'm starting to sweat. Like, I'm getting, like, I take so many showers every day because of pain. Like, I get very hot and sweaty. Just to get a little less warm. But yeah. But basically, I would like to go wherever she wants to go because making her happy makes me happy. Candy BM says, do I have a pet? I do not have a pet. I've never owned a pet. So as a result, I've never had motivation to want a pet. I never grew up with one. So it's just not a normal thing for me overall. But I feel like if I had to pick a pet, I wouldn't want it. But if I had to pick one, I feel like a dog would be reasonable. Like, I don't know. But then again, I don't know. Maybe a cat. I don't know. To be honest, I guess I don't know. I'm just not a pet person, unfortunately. What's my favorite childhood memory? Oh, geez. That is truly, I don't know. I'm trying to think. What are some big standout things? Well, I did skim through these questions beforehand to have at least some basic formulative idea of what I want to say. And I'm trying to think what it would be. I don't know if it's really childhood memory, but one of my favorite memories I have, I was 18. I guess I'm kind of a kid, maybe not. I just started working quite a bit, and I made money, and I was living at my parents' place, so, like, no expenses. So I was basically saving everything. And my mom was quite helpful in, like, she helps me out a lot. And one day, like, I took her out for dinner and I said, let's go for king crab. My favorite cuisine is, like, traditional Chinese cuisine. And king crab with ginger onion and, like, all the other stuff they could do. Oh, unbelievable, amazing stuff. Like lobster, Greek crab, Dungeness crab, ginger onion. Oh, amazing. So it was king crab season and I decided, Mom, let's go out for dinner. So we get to the restaurant. It's not like a super high-end, but it did serve king crab. And I said, let's order king crab. I'm paying. And she was so happy. And, like, I think it probably cost $200 or something. It was so outrageous. But, like, we ate, like, royalty that dinner. And, like, I still remember that so well. Like, it was such a happy memory because, like, I worked hard for this money. And I was able to do something with it and make my mom truly happy and me myself, and I had such good food. So I honestly feel like that's probably one of my favorite memories of all time, at least for myself, because it was just such a wholesome moment because, like, I just wanted to make her happy. It's a way to show thanks because, like, there are many ways to show thanks, and up until then I never had money to spend on people or even myself. So, like, here you go, Mom. Let's enjoy a delicious dinner together. And it was great. And she, I think, also thinks so fondly of that memory. Like, if I bring it up, she loves it too. I would love to do it again, but, like, king crab is expensive. But maybe one day I will. Or maybe I want to do it with Pancake, because that's something I would like to do with Pancake, because it was such a happy time. We'll see. Curry Water says, what is the most amount of stones I ever had at one point? Well, I had like 700-800 on Mantastic, and I think almost 1,100 on Fantastic at one point. And then I just rolled tons during the Player's Choice Godfest. So, like, it went down, but I got great stuff overall. I had such a good haul of Godfest exclusives. And then, how many stones I think I've used during my whole 6 to 7 years? I can't even estimate. I don't even know how many stones have been given out over time. Like, I don't know. A lot. Thousands overall. Connie Utterback says, if I had $1 billion, what would I spend it on? What are things I want in life? Wow. $1 billion is so much money. My previous job, I used to work in the financial services industry, so I have a decent understanding of money and, like, how to make money work for yourself. And, like, $1 billion is just infinite. Is way more than I could ever dream of course. But if we're thinking smaller numbers, like, well, okay, first things I would do is I would, like, pay off my sister's student loan, my Pancake student loan. I'd help my dad get a new car. I'd basically help my sister with a down payment. Basically just take care of my family. I'd help Larissa's mom get a place as well. Ideally, the manipulative side of me would be like, let me buy condos for everyone, but make them so they're all close to me, so they're nearby. I'd probably do something like that. But basically, I would try and take care of like my immediate family and Larissa's mom as well, or Pancake's mom as well, like, because it's important. So like I would take care of that first, and then another thing I would do is $1 billion is way too much. I could never spend it fast enough. But again, if it was smaller numbers, I would try and set up an income stream. Like, for example, if you have $1 million invested away and you get 10% return, which is definitely doable, again, just easy numbers, that's $100,000. So if you have $1 million invested away and you never wanted to work again in your life, you could have an income stream of approximately $100,000 if it performs at 10%, which is not unreasonable overall. And if we have more than that, well, the income stream just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I live on much less than $100,000 a year, way less. So like an income stream would definitely change that. But I don't even know what I would spend it on. I don't have enough things I want. Like, I'm not exceptionally materialistic. I think you probably have possibly gleaned that like this Kogma shirt is from like 10 years ago. This Discord sweater is free from Discord. Discord's great. Like, I tend to like, I'm not exceptionally materialistic. I don't spend. I like, whenever I have money, I save it. Like, that splurge with my mom was great. But again, what I would do, I would splurge and take everyone out for wonderful dinners like that. And then if I had so much money, I would even do that for friends, etc. Like, I don't know, like, I would probably share it. Like, I would definitely save and tuck away a large chunk, like creating that wonderful income stream, maybe like trust funds, etc. for kids in the future. But I don't know, like, if I had smaller numbers, it'd be like pay off like the debts that like student loans for my sister and Pancake has, and like just help my dad out get a new car because this is dying down, that sort of idea. Like, just do those and then just set up an income stream and like just keep going and keep saving. That's mostly what I would do. But what I want in life, I just want to be happy, as weird as that sounds. And happiness can be fleeting, but when you do encounter it, hold on to it. Scott Eisenberg says, I don't normally ask team building questions, but assuming a massive green box with many dupes but no Albert, what would be my ideal team to pair Artemis with Susanoo? I would just use double Artemis. Don't use Susanoo. Like, I think you're probably looking at the video I released beforehand, but like every time I use Susanoo's shield, you wouldn't have to need it if you had dual Artemis, because dual Artemis has 2 times the health, and Susanoo's shield is almost 2 times. It's 50%, 60% damage, so almost 2 times effective health. So the point being is, anytime I had to use Susanoo's shield to survive, I could have just tanked it with New Year's Artemis. So double Artemis is definitely superior. But what you need to do is have a solution to voids. I don't think Zila is enough. I really don't think Zila is enough VDP damage. So if you have a Zila, you need to have something else. Or at least Zila with a burst, or Zila ready with her active skill. The other option, which I tend to favor, is using Alj. And I like Alj because her active skill is short. She has 4/7 combos, so she hits damage cap so easily. You can inherit an active skill of your choice, but you have the Void Damage Void, which, if I'm going to assume this is for sure realm content. The purple Void spawn towards the end, you'll need big damage to get through it, and Zila I found wasn't enough. So Alj does definitely solve that for myself. And multiple Susanoos, like, I guess you could create like a damage reduction system, but I don't think it's truly necessary. Like, you have enough orb flow, like say you have a Vishnu or 2, you can keep cycling. You have an Alj for the Void Damage Void, another character for like the damage absorption counter. Like, you don't have to have, you can have one of your New Year's Artemises inheriting like a counter as well. Like, I think there's definitely plenty of room to work around for a green box, but I am a personal fan of Alj, especially with no Albert. Bob says, is Sena and Kamen Rider Saber a good pair? They know Saber's skill would counter the Sena's leader skill, but having follow-up attack is meaningful. Well, I don't think, like, Sena is so well suited for current endgame content because there's much less in terms of resolve, so auto follow-up attack is less needed. Like, I feel like the pairing would definitely make it easier to do other dungeons, but at the same time, why not pair with, say, Beach Planner? Beach Planner has auto follow-up attack, and it's a much more synergistic abilities overall, and at the same time, her active is something you probably want to have as well. And having to make 4 fire orbs match could possibly be a little bit of a drawback. Maybe it could prevent you matching extra combos. I don't know. But like, I haven't really played around with that pairing too much. I didn't think it was necessary. And does the Vol of Attack go through damage absorption? Yes, it does go through it now. And plus, we can use dupe Sena in the team to make the team active the leader skill. Yeah, like, I like using Sena as a sub for sure, but at the same time, like, I honestly think Sena pairing is way better. Like, it's much more durable and safe. And with Saber, the big issue is if you dip below 50% health, your damage reduction is grossly lowered, and that can be problematic, especially against multi-hits or spawns where there's or floors where there's multiple spawns overall. So I don't think it's the greatest pairing. It definitely could work, but I personally prefer double Sena. Harstbeat says, if I had 2,000 stones, is it a good idea to spend all of them trying to get a whale team? Well, maybe not all 2,000, but hoarding stones, saving, and rolling hard in a lucrative event is, I feel, the best way to play gacha games, because you need to be able to leverage as much as you can. And if you acquire a card when they're released, which is usually at the peak of their power creep, you'll get the most value. So having the big hoard of stones to roll lots helps ensure that can happen. So it is definitely a good strategy. You probably don't need that many stones, but it's a good idea to do. Conversely, you can even use some of those for like Player's Choice, or like notable Super Godfest, where the rolling rates are quite high to get that trade fodder. That's what I did in Player's Choice. I got tons of trade fodder. I could make trades moving forward, which gives me that degree of certainty as well. So what would be my rolling strategy if I had 2,000 stones? Kind of similar to what I just said there. Like, I banked up like 700-800 stones, I think, for when Player's Choice Godfest came, and I went hard, and I got lots of good stuff overall. Drummer Sting says, how do I get to the rank I am now? They're only ranked 700 or so, but they can't seem to get to rank that. Well, rank 1,000 is so far away by comparison. And is there a viable easy team to beat Alt Shuras with the EXP leader swap? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and feel like, are you even beating Shura Realm right now without leader swap? Because doing a leader swap is going to make it much more difficult. And at the same time, you don't need it. Like, if you're at rank 700, if you clear Shura Realm once, you're going to rank up so many times. It's not necessary. And in my opinion, chasing rank is a bad idea, because being able to rank up gives you a stamina refill, which means you can keep playing when you want to play. Yes, with watching an ad for stamina refill, it does help reward bigger stamina pools, but at the same time, if you can rank up when you want to rank up, you have unlimited stamina. So blindly rushing through ranks is a bad idea, because for myself, I need 90-ish million to rank up now. So 2 Shura Realms plus another one, basically. Not that doable. Like, it's doable for sure, but at the same time, someone at rank 700 probably needs like 1 million or 2 to rank up, and Shura Realm is way more than necessary. So I wouldn't even look towards that. Like, keep playing through the arenas and keep stockpiling those pies and whatnot. Maybe if you want, you can start playing Shura Realm, but it's going to over-level you and waste a lot of that stamina. And teams that can beat under 30 minutes. I don't know about those leader swap strategies. I know there are people who do it. It's not something I do. I don't believe in rushing rank, at least for myself. And as mentioned, it's not actually worth grinding. How do I get better at defeating Lucifer in Alt Shura Realm? Well, the first step is you could use a time extend badge, or use leaders with built-in movement time. It makes the test or puzzle easier. If you don't need the badge for anything else, take time extend. There's no shame in using it. Like in my 7x6, if I ever use 7x6, I'm always going to try and use the time extend badge, because I want to actually pass it, and it's quite difficult otherwise. So they say 80% of the time they keep losing to the third stage. Well, what you need to do is you should count your orbs. So like if you have a 6, that's a row, and you can put that and you never have to worry about it again. If you have like 9, you could say, well, that's a row and another combo. You should be able to kind of try and visualize where you want to put your orbs and blob them as much as possible. Like I usually make 4, maybe 5 combos total on Lucifer's final stage, because I'm blobbing my combos. Like, just go take a look at any of the Shura Realm videos I've published and just watch what I do for Lucifer's stage. You'll see my blobbing approach. Just take a look at a couple of them. It's the same approach over and over again. And how fast do I beat Shura Realm using a regular team? Fun fact, yesterday I played some Yukes solo by myself, and I was having 16 to 17 minute clears, but I'm partially distracted. I probably get down to like 15 to 16 minutes. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I was distracted. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. But like, under 20 minutes is definitely quite doable, and it was relatively straightforward, at least for myself. Lawrence Production says, what is my deepest and darkest secret? Well, if it was a deep, dark secret, would I really be telling you? But at the same time, there's not really that much overall. What's my biggest insecurity about myself? I'd say my health situation. Like, especially prior to meeting Pancake, it was a major concern for myself, because at the time I was 25, 26, I forgot. And at that age, everyone's healthy, everyone's active, everyone's living life, and I wasn't. And it was a big deal for myself. And like, initially when I was first started using Tinder, like, I would kind of hide that fact. I would almost say, like, they asked, what do you do for work? And at the time I wasn't doing anything really much. And I'd say, oh, I'm on a sabbatical. And that sounds really stupid. If you're like in your 20s on a sabbatical, no, it means you're unemployed. It doesn't sound good. So like, eventually I started opening up, saying like, I have health problems, but just be aware of it so far. And like, obviously it immediately turned away a lot of people, like, and that's understandable, but at the same time, I'd rather them tell me right away as opposed to going through multiple dates either way. So I feel like that's my biggest insecurity. And yeah, that's my biggest insecurity right now, is my health issues and like deteriorating health and the fear that it's just gonna be too much to deal with. And they asked, has the insecurity prevented me from doing what I want to before? Well, it was a hurdle for sure, because prior to meeting Pancake, I had another long-term relationship actually, and I got injured while in that relationship, and the relationship fell apart because of the injury. So it made me even more paranoid, because like everything changed literally everything overnight changed. Like my whole life just was so different. I was no longer that person who full-time job, incredibly active, going out, doing things, providing, etc. Like, I couldn't do any of that anymore. And it was a big shift in terms of who I am, and that's not good. What do I want to do in life? Well, I said my goal is to be happy. So I want to try and ideally find things that make myself happy. So that is kind of what my goal is in life as well. Like, if I can find something that sustains myself and I enjoy doing it, I feel like I'm kind of winning in that sense. So that's something I'm just trying to figure out. Like, I need to figure out what makes me happy and finding ways to make that happen while still being able to at least financially survive, of course. So that brings me to the conclusion of question time. I feel like this is the longest question time thus far. There were more questions here compared to previous videos, but I do truly appreciate every single individual who has asked questions, and I look forward to next month. So hopefully all a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own adventures, and happy puzzling.